It was supposed to be perfect. I'd spent months planning every detail of my father's retirement party, booking the quiet countryside and he loved, coordinating with caterers, ordering personalized centerpieces. It was understated, but dignified, the way Dad would have wanted it. I'm Marcus. I'm 36. Live just outside Albany, and if you'd asked anyone that night, they'd have told you I was the responsible one, the planner, the fixer. The party was well underway when she showed up. Danny, my younger sister by 6 years, made her entrance like she always did, loud, late, and dressed like she was headed to a rooftop bar in Vegas. Stiletto boots, a skin-tight mini dress, and a fur shrug. Not even fake modesty, just full send. She waved at the room like it was a red carpet. My dad looked up from his glass of cider and blinked. She made it, he said, sounding surprised. Mom smiled vaguely. Well, you know Danny. Yeah, I knew Danny. She strutted past the buffet, ignoring handshakes and small talk, and made a beeline for the table where I'd placed the chocolate sculpture. 3 tiers, dark and milk chocolate woven into the shape of a clock tower, symbolizing Dad's 4 decades at the paper mill. Not cheap, not easy. I had it custom made and kept it a secret because I wanted to surprise him. Danny barely glanced at Dad. She just tilted her head, pulled out her phone, and posed in front of the sculpture like it was part of a museum exhibit. I saw one of the caterers raise a hand, maybe to warn her not to lean too close, but she didn't notice, or didn't care. She shifted her weight to one hip, then bumped the table with her elbow. I don't know if it was the vibration or the angle of her pose, but the sculpture, my one indulgence, started to tilt. I moved without thinking, but I was too far. The whole thing came crashing down. Chocolate shattered across the white tablecloth. A splatter of cocoa hit Dad's blazer square in the chest. Gasps, then silence. Danny stared down at the wreckage. A single shard of molded chocolate wobbled on the edge of the table and fell off. She blinked, then laughed. Oops, oops. I asked, my voice flat. She shrugged, barely looking at me. Wasn't even that cute. Dad was still frozen. I glanced at him, his blazer streaked with dark chocolate, his hands sticky and still. Then at Mom, who took a sip of cider and said, well, you know how Danny gets when she's let down. Let down. I didn't say a word. I just turned and walked away, past the guests who had turned their attention to the cleanup effort, past the stunned faces of cousins and co-workers. All I could think about was the phone call 2 months earlier, Danny asking if I could fund her dream restaurant, her fantasy bistro with no location, no plan, no budget. I told her I couldn't. I found Julia, my fiancée, by the hallway bathroom. She was blotting at a splash of chocolate on her dress with a napkin, her brows tight. I helped her dab the stain out, my jaw locked. She looked up at me. Was that on purpose? I didn't answer, but we both knew, and that's when I felt it. Not anger exactly, just clarity, like something had cracked open, something I'd been pretending wasn't broken for a long time. I didn't go to bed that night. Julia had fallen asleep on the couch, still in her dress. She tried to stay awake, but I told her I needed some time. I needed space to think. I sat at the dining table, the light from the kitchen casting long shadows across the hardwood floor. My laptop sat open, humming quietly. I reached for the old file folder I hadn't touched in weeks. The tab read, Danny Business Fund, LLC Prep. Inside, everything was lined up. Co-signed lease agreement for a storefront next to the new Bistro Row in Schenectady. Drafts of her business plan, most of which I had written. Licensing paperwork, vendor contacts, an Excel sheet mapping out the $15,000 I'd already transferred to an escrow account. The sad part? I had actually believed in it. Not the business, exactly, but in giving her a clean slate, a structure, a chance to do something real, something that might shift the dynamic between us. I stared at the page titled Capital Allocation, Q1, and noticed the red pen edits I'd made one night after work. Notes in the margin. Staffing overhead too optimistic. Triple check liquor license status. Ask Danny about sourcing, organic or conventional. Ask Danny. That was the moment it really clicked. I had done all the asking, all the organizing, all the hoping. She just floated through it. I opened a new tab, logged into the escrow management portal, clicked Revoke Disbursement. The funds locked pending review. Next tab, Lease Co-Signature Portal. A few quick clicks. I withdrew as guarantor. The system sent automatic notifications to the landlord, to Danny, and to my lawyer. Final tab, Email Drafts. One was labeled Marketing Grant Request, another Vendor Outreach. All things I'd started for her. Delete, delete. I didn't feel angry, just clean. By 2:17 a.m., everything was canceled, frozen, or rescinded. No drama, no explanation, just silence. At 9:42 a.m., I saw the email confirmations arrive in my inbox. 2 minutes later, my phone vibrated once. A message from the lease portal. Notification delivered to co-applicant. I didn't text. I didn't call. She'd find it. And when she did, she'd know exactly what it meant. I didn't need to shout. I'd already said enough. It didn't all start with the chocolate sculpture. That was just the part loud enough for the rest of the room to notice. The real stuff? The pattern? That was quieter. Years in the making. I remember the first time it happened. Really happened. I was 24, fresh out of grad school, working long hours as an assistant editor while trying to save for my own apartment. One afternoon, I came home and found 3 glossy car brochures fanned out across my desk. I lived alone at the time. Danny had been over 2 days earlier to use the Wi-Fi. The next morning, she called. Not to beg or anything, she'd said. But you think you could help me find something reliable? Like a used Civic or something? That same week, I co-signed a lease for a 2009 Mazda. She wrecked it 14 months later. Never said thank you. It went on like that for years. She flunked out of community college and told me the scholarship office messed up her paperwork. I spent 3 nights rewriting her appeal, only for her to ghost the follow-up email from admissions. She wanted help with her resume, so I made her one from scratch, tailored for event planning jobs. She never applied to a single position I sent her. At one point, she called crying because her landlord was threatening eviction. I paid her balance directly. 3 weeks later, she posted a story from a spa in Montauk with the caption, "Finally relaxing." Every single time, I told myself the same thing. It's just a phase. She's trying. But she wasn't. She was performing effort just enough to trigger guilt. And Mom always played backup vocals. She just needs help getting started. She's had a harder time than you. You know Danny. She's always had dreams, just not structure. Structure. Funny word, considering how much of my life I'd structured around her messes. Julia used to ask why I never got upset. You make excuses for her more than she does for herself. But I wasn't making excuses. I was just trying to hold the ship steady. For Dad, for Mom, for everyone. Until last week, a friend from work sent me a TikTok. I wasn't tagged. It was just Danny, walking slowly through an empty bistro space. Hardwood floors, white walls, twinkle lights strung up over a paint bucket. She was filming a voiceover, but the caption said it all. Manifesting my dream. Ignore my bitter brother blocking the blessing. I watched it 3 times. Blocking the blessing? She hadn't asked me to fund her restaurant. Not really. She'd just floated the idea. Repeated it enough times that it became an assumption. When I hesitated, asked about her projections, her prep work, she played it cool. Said she understood. Then she posted that. To her followers, I was just the bitter older brother holding her back. Not the guy who'd written her business plan and wired 15 grand to an escrow account. Not the guy who'd cleaned up after her every time she fell apart. No, I was a villain now. And in her world, that version of me played better. It wasn't just that she didn't respect me. It was that she needed me to be the bad guy so she could keep playing the dreamer. That was the part that finally broke something in me. Not the mess. Not the money. The rewriting. At exactly 9:42 a.m., my phone buzzed. Group text. Danny, what's this lease thing you pulled out? 3 dots appeared, then vanished. A pause. Then another message. Danny, are you joking? I could lose everything. I stared at the screen, standing in my kitchen with a mug of coffee that had gone cold. I didn't reply. 5 seconds later, another text came through, this time from Mom. Mom, let's not panic. I'm sure this was a mistake. Call me. Right. A mistake. Like I'd hit the wrong button on a vending machine. Like $15,000 just disappeared on accident. I turned off notifications. Let the silence sit. 10 minutes later, my phone lit up again. Incoming call. Danny. I let it ring twice, then answered. Hello. I said flatly. Her voice hit immediately, high-pitched and strained. You pulled out of the lease? Marcus, what the hell? Do you even understand what that means? I didn't raise my voice. I do. She scoffed. So what? You're just gonna ruin my life over one stupid party? You're seriously that petty? You ruined Dad's retirement celebration on purpose. Silence. I could hear her breathing. Then a little laugh, short and bitter. Oh my God, are you serious right now? You're really gonna hang all of this on a chocolate sculpture? No, I said. But you knocked it over like it meant nothing. You didn't even apologize. You laughed. It was just chocolate, she snapped. You're acting like I set the place on fire. And this, I said, my tone even, is just accountability. She didn't say anything for a while. Then she made a sound, half snort, half scoff, and muttered, unbelievable. Her voice dropped lower. You just love playing the martyr, don't you? Mr. Responsible, Mr. Self-Sacrifice. I didn't take the bait. If you didn't want to help, you could have just said that, she added. I waited a beat. You never asked. Another silence. Then a click. She hung up. I stood there in the kitchen for a full minute, letting the quiet settle into the corners of the apartment. No rage. No relief. Just the slow unfolding of something I'd always known but never admitted out loud. She wasn't shocked that I withdrew. She was shocked she lost access. That was the thing. This wasn't about the lease. It wasn't about the bistro or the chocolate or the party. It was about everything that came before it. Years of rewrites and wire transfers, and can you just this once? And now that the account was closed, emotionally and literally, there was nothing left for her to withdraw from. For the first time in my adult life, the line was drawn, and I wasn't stepping back over it. The knock came around 2 in the afternoon. Firm, familiar, no hesitation. Julia looked up from the couch, where she was reading. I didn't have to check the peephole. I already knew. I opened the door, and there she was. Mom, in her navy trench coat, clutching a tote bag like it was armor. No warning, no text, just here. Hi, she said, like we were starting fresh. I stepped aside. Come in. She didn't waste time. I just wanted to talk, face to face. We haven't really gotten a chance to. To do what? I asked. Fix it or ignore it. She exhaled softly and walked past me into the kitchen like she owned the place. She didn't sit, just stood by the counter, pretending to examine a framed photo of Julia and me from last fall in the Berkshires. You've always been the reliable one, she said. There it was, the opener, the flattery that wasn't really flattery. I mean that, Marcus. You've always had a good head on your shoulders. Solid, responsible. You're the one who bails everyone out. I finished. Yeah, I know the speech. She blinked. I didn't mean it like that. I leaned against the opposite counter, arms crossed. How did you mean it? She sighed, like I was being difficult. This thing with your sister, it's gotten out of hand. You're both hurt, and she's not hurt, Mom, I said, cutting her off. She's mad she lost access. Mom frowned. That's harsh. It's true. There was a long pause. She's your sister. I know. And you're her brother. I nodded. I used to be. Her eyes narrowed. That's not fair. What's not fair, I said slowly, is doing everything for years and being treated like I'm the obstacle anytime I say no. She looked down at her hands. That was the closest I was going to get to agreement. Then she tried again. I just think you're being reactive. No, I said calmly. That version of me, the one who absorbed it all, made excuses, took the fall just to keep the peace. He doesn't exist anymore. Her expression changed. Not angry, just caught, like something in the script had gone wrong. You can't abandon your sister. I'm not, I said. I just stopped underwriting her choices. She blinked a few times, adjusted the strap on her bag. Well, she said, clearing her throat. I hope this phase passes. She walked to the door. I didn't follow. At the threshold, she turned back. Family means something, Marcus. It does, I said. Just not what you think it does. She left. No apology. No understanding. Just the soft click of the door. I didn't feel victorious. I felt free. I was unloading groceries when my phone buzzed with a text from my cousin Malik. Malik, I saw her video. I'm with you. I stopped mid-step, the milk in my hand sweating through the paper bag. I stared at the message for a second. No context, no link, just that. I set the groceries on the counter, unlocked my phone, and opened TikTok. There she was, Danny, sitting on the floor of what looked like a dimly lit bedroom, wrapped in a hoodie I recognized from an ex-boyfriend. Face blotchy, eyes red but perfectly framed in the camera. Her voice trembled. I never wanted to make this public, she began, but I'm out of options. I've been emotionally and financially manipulated by someone in my family who was supposed to protect me. Pause. Wipe away a tear. When I tried to start something for myself, a dream I've had since I was 15, he pulled the rug out from under me. Just destroyed everything. No warning. No reason. Just cruelty. The captions were even worse. #survivor. #sibling abuse. #homeless dreamer. I scrolled through the comments. You're so brave. He sounds like a narcissist. Cut him out forever, Queen. Drop his name. Expose him. She hadn't tagged me, but she didn't have to. She knew I'd see it. She wanted me to. She wanted the world to. I didn't comment. I didn't text her. I didn't even finish the video. I closed the app and walked straight to my desk. I pulled open the folder labeled Danny, proof, and got to work. Lease termination letter, PDF attached. Escrow documentation, timestamp. Cosigner withdrawal notice, signed, dated. Receipts of bank transfers. Messages showing my contribution history, even the drafts of her own business plan she never opened. No color, no emotion, just the facts. I put it all in one folder and emailed it to her prospective landlord with a short, formal statement. Subject, lease withdrawal confirmation. Body, effective date. I have formally withdrawn as guarantor and financial cosigner from the lease agreement under applicant Danielle M. Last name. Attached are the relevant documents. This decision is final and non-negotiable. Marcus J. Last name. Then I backed away from the desk and exhaled. Julia came in from the other room, reading my face. Is it done? She asked softly. I nodded. She went public, so I went permanent. She didn't ask what that meant. She just placed a hand on my shoulder and said, good. That night, I turned my phone off. No scrolling, no damage control, no texts from people who only called when they needed me to be the bad guy or the buffer. Just quiet and sleep. For the first time in years, it came easy. The brunch invitation came on a Wednesday. A cheery email titled, "Reset Brunch. Let's reconnect." No subject line has ever made me grit my teeth faster. Julia read it over my shoulder. Is that supposed to be a peace offering? Or a trap? Probably both, I muttered. We went anyway. It was held at Aunt Nadine's house. Neutral territory. Big windows. Buffet-style spread. Too much citrus-scented hand soap in the bathroom. When we arrived, the room buzzed with fake calm. Mom greeted us with a tight-lipped smile. "I'm glad you came." Danny was already seated at the head of the long table, oversized sunglasses on the crown of her head, like a celebrity dodging consequences. She didn't look at me. I didn't look at her. We took our seats. The table was full. Cousins, a few family friends, Dad on his second mimosa. Everyone smiled like they were posing for a dentist ad. No one brought up TikTok. No one said the words lease or escrow or sculpture. Just safe topics. Weather, renovations, someone's new puppy, performative peace. Then Mom raised her glass. "I think we've all been under a lot of stress lately, but today is about forgiveness and moving forward." I stared at my plate. Julia glanced at me. Danny reached for a croissant. Mom continued, "Let's just let go of the past. What matters is that we're here, together." That's when I spoke. "Let's talk about mistakes." The clinking of cutlery stopped. I looked at Danny. "You ruined Dad's retirement party on purpose." Her mouth froze mid-bite. "Still with the sculpture?" she said, dry as dust. I turned to the room. She knocked over the centerpiece while filming herself for likes. Laughed while Dad stood there covered in chocolate. Never apologized. Someone cleared their throat. No one defended her. I looked back at Danny. "Then you posted a video online calling me abusive and controlling, knowing I'd paid for your lease, your filings, your startup funds. All of it." Mom put her hand up. "Marcus, we're not doing this here." "I am," I said, "because I'm not going to smile through a reset brunch like none of that happened." Danny rolled her eyes and leaned back in her chair. "You always make things so dramatic." "No," I said quietly. "I just stopped pretending this family's version of love was normal." Julia reached over and rested her hand on mine. I looked around the table. "I'm not going to keep showing up just to be erased. Not again. So if this brunch was about pretending it's all behind us, count me out." We stood, pushed our chairs in. No dramatic exit. No slamming of doors. Just clarity. I waited for someone to say something, to stop us, even just call my name. No one did. As Julia and I walked toward the door, all I heard was the clatter of someone picking up their fork again. That told me everything. The performance wasn't for us. It was for themselves. And we weren't in the cast anymore. It was 3 days after the brunch. Julia was out grocery shopping. I told her I'd organized the office, something I'd been meaning to do since we moved in 6 months ago. It started with clearing out a drawer of old receipts and ended with a cardboard box from my childhood bedroom that I hadn't touched since Dad gave it to me just to make space. I opened it, expecting old tax forms or high school notebooks. Instead, I found her, Danny, age 10, maybe 11, scribbled drawings, stick figures labeled "Me and Marcus at Six Flags," a folded-up birthday card in red crayon that read, "You're the best brother ever. I'd pick you even if we weren't related." I sat down. Slowly, there were others. Notes from school paper scraps. "Sorry I broke your sunglasses. Don't be mad. You're the coolest. Can I sleep in your room tonight? I had a nightmare. Don't tell Mom, but I stole 2 cookies and saved you one." I held one of them between my fingers, the ink fading at the corners. She had dotted her eyes with stars. I don't know how long I sat there. At some point, the sunlight shifted on the carpet and the room went quiet in a way that wasn't just physical. It hit me, not the drama, not the betrayal, but the weight of what I'd lost. Not the current Danny, not the woman who weaponized social media and sugar-coated sabotage, but the kid who used to wait for me at the end of the school hall, clutching a plastic lunchbox and smiling like I was a superhero. I hadn't cried once through this entire mess. Not during the party, not during the fallout, not even during the TikTok smear campaign. But I cried now, quietly, for the girl I remembered, and for the man I had to become to survive her. When the tears stopped, I wiped my face and looked back at the pile. Then I grabbed a trash bag. I didn't throw it all in, just the notes. Just the ones that no longer match reality. Some things aren't meant to be stored. Not forever. I sealed the bag, took it to the dumpster, and when I came back inside, the air felt clearer. Not happier, just lighter. Julia walked in 10 minutes later, arms full of groceries. "You okay?" she asked, noticing my face. "Yeah," I said. I finally let her go. It started with missed calls, 12 in a day, 3 from Mom, 2 from Dad. The rest, all Danny. I didn't pick up. Julia and I had just settled into the new house, a small, 2-story fixer-upper north of Albany. Nothing fancy, but quiet, clean. Ours. On the 3rd day, I got the message. From Mom. "This isn't you. It's Julia." Just 5 words. But they landed like a slap. I stared at it for a full minute before showing it to Julia. She read it once, then twice. Her mouth tightened, but she didn't say anything. Guess I'm not the villain anymore, I muttered. She smiled faintly. Just the influence behind the villain. There it was. The new strategy. I had stopped answering, so they pivoted to someone I cared about. Someone they assumed was easier to blame. Someone more removable and predictable as clockwork. It continued. Another message came in, this time from Dad. You've changed. She's changed you. Then Danny posted a cryptic story online. Sad how some women love control more than they love truth. Hashtag fake family. I didn't respond to any of it until the call came. Blocked number. I picked up. Marcus, Mom said quickly. I need to say something, and I need you to really hear me. Okay, I know this isn't all you're doing. I know Julia's been pressuring you to keep your distance. That's not who you are. That's not how we raised you. My jaw clenched. I walked out to the porch and sat on the step. Mom, I said evenly, don't ever say that again. Marcus, no, stop. There was silence on the line. This isn't about Julia. This isn't about anyone changing me. This is about boundaries, finally having them. But we're your family. Then act like it. I snapped. Because calling the woman I'm going to marry a manipulator? That's not family. That's cowardice. She was quiet again. Then her voice softened. I'm just scared we've lost you. You didn't lose me, I said. You just lost your grip. She inhaled sharply, like she might cry. But this time, I didn't rush in to rescue the moment. I let the weight of it sit. I'm asking you now, I said, don't contact Julia again. If you want to speak to me, do it with respect, and only about your own actions, not hers. No more shifting blame. There was a pause. Understood, she said quietly. And for the first time in my life, I actually believed her. I hung up, went back inside. Julia looked up from the kitchen. That sounded civil. I kissed her on the forehead. Don't worry, I said. I handled it, and I meant it. It was a Thursday, cloudy, late afternoon. I had just gotten off a client call when I heard the gravel crunching in the driveway. I looked out the window. It was my mother. She stepped out of her car slowly, carefully balancing a bakery box in her hands. White cardboard, satin ribbon. I didn't move. I watched as she walked up the front steps, paused at the door, and rang the bell. Julia was in the kitchen. Want me to get it? She asked. No, I said. I've got it. When I opened the door, she looked smaller than I remembered. Not physically, just reduced. I didn't know how else to reach you, she said. Her voice wasn't sharp. It was almost unsure. She held out the box. It's just a cake. I didn't take it. She lowered it slightly. It's not a bribe or a demand, just something. I looked at her, then at the cake, then back at her. You drove 30 minutes with a cake? I asked. She nodded. I thought about writing a letter, but I wasn't sure you'd read it. I stepped aside and let her in. She walked slowly to the dining table and set the box down like it was fragile. White frosting, she said softly. No almonds. I remembered. I leaned against the kitchen island. So this is the apology? She looked down. It's the beginning, maybe. I waited. I know things went too far, she said. And I know I didn't help. I thought staying neutral was the best thing, but it wasn't. I can see that now. She looked up. But you've always been the strong one, the steady one. That's why you thought I could take the hit. I finished. She didn't deny it. Danny needed so much. And you never asked for anything. So I assumed you didn't need anything. That's not strength, I said. That's survival. She nodded slowly. Maybe I told myself you were okay, so I didn't have to face how much I relied on you. There was a long pause. Is there a way back? She asked. Not today, but someday. For once, she didn't say it like it was owed. She asked like she might have to earn it. I thought about it. About the girl with the lunchbox. About the chocolate sculpture. About the silence that always followed the damage. Not now, I said. Maybe never. She closed her eyes. Just for a moment. Then she picked up the cake box again. Keep it, I said. She blinked. Really? I'll toss it myself. That way I know it's done. She gave a tired little laugh. Still stubborn. No, I said. Just finally clear. She nodded, turned, and walked out the door without another word. That night, after Julia went to bed, I opened the box. It was a small white cake, delicate trim, nothing extravagant. I stood there for a while, just staring at it. Then I closed the lid, carried it out to the trash bin, and dropped it in. Some gestures come too late, and some don't change anything at all.